There's a quiet kind of man who barely raises his voice, who doesn't push for attention, who seems almost invisible in a crowded room. Yet somehow, long after the moment has passed, a woman still remembers him. His presence, his energy, the strange gravity he carried without trying. And then there are others who talk endlessly, filling every silence with words and explanations, yet leave behind nothing but noise. At first, it feels mysterious, almost unfair, but the truth is simple. It's never about how much a man speaks, but about where his words take her. Not the weather, not the small talk, not the polite dance of predictable questions. It's the ones that slip beneath the surface, the ones that invite her in instead of performing for her, the ones that make her feel like her inner world is finally being touched instead of observed from afar. These are the questions that linger, the questions that turn a conversation into a connection. And today, we step quietly into 15 of them. The first question is deceptively simple. What makes you feel fulfilled? And the moment it leaves your lips, you can feel the shift. This I send to you a question about her job, or her hobbies, or the things she tells at family dinners. This question invites her into the space she rarely gets to explore. It asks her what lights her from within, what forces her feet out of bed on the days when strength feels thin, what gives her life its meaning beyond survival and routine. When she answers it, she opens a doorway most men never see. Maybe she'll tell you she feels fulfilled when she's helping someone, when she's making a difference, when she feels her presence actually matters. Maybe she'll talk about achievement, about goals that demand everything she has, about reaching a place she once thought was far beyond her reach. Or maybe she'll speak of freedom, movement, travel, the thrill of the unknown. Every answer she gives is more than information. It is her emotional blueprint, her internal compass. And the moment she shares it, she isn't just talking, she is trusting. The man who listens to what fulfills her becomes the man she can't easily forget, because he becomes the one who sees what few others bother to ask. Then comes the second question, a shift from the internal to the relational. What attracts you most in a man? Most men believe attraction is a game of status, of features, of physicality, a checklist of external trophies. But attraction is rarely that simple. So much of what moves a woman is invisible. The steadiness of a man's presence, the subtle confidence that doesn't need applause, the way he listens, the way he makes her feel understood without effort, the humor that softens her guard, the intelligence that makes conversation feel electric instead of routine. And when she answers, I send tea just revealing a preference. She's reinforcing what she already responds to unconsciously. The secret is never to jump in and declare, "Oh, I have that too." That breaks the spell. That makes you sound like you're auditioning. Instead, let her talk. Let her describe what pulls her in. And if those traits live naturally in you, simply continue being them. Let her see them not because you announce them, but because they reveal themselves. Discovery always hits deeper than declaration. And the moment she spots those qualities in you without you pointing them out, you stop being a man she talks to. You become a man she imagines. The third question is one most men avoid. What bothers you most in a man? It feels dangerous, like a trap, like walking into territory where you might be compared to ghosts of her past. But the truth is, this question gives you something no guesswork ever could. A map of what to avoid, what to never become, what to never repeat. Her answer often comes from past wounds. If she says insecurity, it means she once carried a man heavier than he carried himself. If she says arrogance, she craves confidence without cruelty. If she says laziness, she values vision, momentum, and purpose. These aren't preferences. They're lessons carved out of pain. When she shares them, she isn't listing complaints. She's revealing boundaries, quietly warning you about the places where attraction has died for her before. Don't defend yourself or compare. Just listen. Nod with understanding. Acknowledge her truth. In that moment, you're not a performer begging for approval. You are simply a man willing to understand her. And understanding is a rare currency. Then comes the fourth question, one that gently pulls her backward through time. Who was your first love as a child? But this isn't about romantic competition. Childhood love is pure emotion without structure. The butterflies before you even knew the word, the stolen glances, the clumsy smiles that felt like eternity. Asking her this invites nostalgia, and nostalgia is one of the strongest bridges to trust. When she speaks of that first love, she is revealing the girl she used to be, the softer version of herself, untouched by heartbreak or the armor she learned to build. Her voice may shift. She may laugh at how silly it was, or feel a quiet ache for a moment she can never return to. Your job is to hold the space gently. Let her sink into the memory, then guide her deeper, asking what made that person special, or whether her way of loving has changed since then. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about the past. It is about the emotional thread connecting her childhood heart to the woman she is now. And you are following that thread with her. The fifth question continues that journey through time. When you were a child, how did you imagine your life as an adult? Ask this, and you'll watch her step into the dreams she once sketched before life demanded compromises. She may describe visions of travel, of music, of art, of a home she built in her imagination, long before she learned the cost of building one in real life. She may speak of who she thought she'd become, who she hoped she'd be, who she still secretly wants to be. And in the space between the life she imagined and the life she lives, you'll see the truth of her, the resilience, the disappointments, the victories, the evolving dreams. If you listen closely, you'll learn more about her than she usually reveals in months. And in that moment, you are no longer a stranger. You're a witness to her story. The sixth question is where the tone shifts, where the conversation loosens and laughter sneaks in like sunlight breaking through a quiet morning. What is your guilty pleasure? And the beauty of this question is how gently it unravels her seriousness. It invites her to reveal the small hidden comforts she usually keeps tucked away, the midnight snacks, the shows she pretends not to watch, the music she never admits. She loves the tiny rituals that make her feel good in ways she can't quite explain. When she answers, she isn't just confessing a habit. She is showing you a softer, sillier version of herself, the part that doesn't worry about looking polished or impressive. And your response is everything. You don't laugh at her. You laugh with her. You tease, but gently, with warmth, creating a space that feels light and safe. Because when a woman shares a guilty pleasure without fear of judgment, something shifts. She relaxes. She breathes. She feels free to be imperfect. And that kind of freedom, the freedom to be fully human, is unforgettable. Then you drift into the seventh question, one that feels surprisingly intimate in its innocence. What was your favorite toy as a child? At first, it sounds almost too simple, but memory is stitched to emotion, and childhood memories hold some of the purest emotions of all. When she tells you about that toy, the worn teddy bear, the doll with tangled hair, the puzzle she spent hours building, the bike that made her feel unstoppable, she isn't just describing an object. She is revisiting a world she hasn't touched in years. Watch the subtle changes when she speaks. Her expression softens. Her eyes wander. A smile she doesn't even feel spreading slips into place. She is remembering a version of herself untouched by heartbreak, pressure, or doubt. And without realizing it, she associates the warmth of that memory with the moment you created. So you don't rush her. You don't joke it away. You stay with her. Ask if she still has it, or why she thinks that toy meant so much. Show her that you see the emotion behind the story. And suddenly, you're not just another man she's talking to. You're someone who walked with her, even if for a moment, into the safe spaces of her childhood. The eighth question breaks the innocence with a burst of laughter. What's the dumbest thing you've ever done? This one is powerful because it invites her into a shared vulnerability that feels fun instead of heavy. It frees her from the need to be perfect, composed, or impressive. She might tell you about a clumsy moment, a ridiculous mistake, a wild night, or a story she can barely get through without laughing. And that laughter is gold. It lowers walls faster than charm ever could. Your role is simple. Don't make it a spectacle. Don't treat her embarrassment as entertainment. Laugh with her, not at her. Perhaps even share your own foolish moment afterward. Not to one-up her, but to create a shared rhythm. An exchange that feels like two people revealing the messy human parts of themselves. When she feels safe enough to look silly in front of you, she also feels safe enough to be real. And authenticity, once unlocked, is a doorway to connection far deeper than attraction alone. Then the conversation lifts into something more dreamy with the 9th question. If you woke up anywhere in the world tomorrow, where would it be? Though it sounds simple, this question is an invitation into her imagination, a place where she can drop the weight of reality and step into desire. Her answer isn't just about the location. It's about the life she longs for. A quiet beach signals peace, escape, softness. A bustling city reveals ambition, curiosity, momentum. A place filled with art or culture hints at a soul that needs beauty to breathe. When she answers, she is unconsciously describing her emotional landscape. Listen to the tone, the energy in her words. Then reflect a piece of it back to her, not in a way that claims her dream, but in a way that subtly includes you in it. Something like, interesting. I can almost see it. That one line places you inside her imagination. And the brain doesn't always distinguish imagination from memory. If she can see you in the place she longs to be, she can feel you as part of the life she craves. The 10th question deepens the connection again. What do people always misunderstand about you? This is where surface talk dissolves completely. She shifts from who the world thinks she is to who she truly feels herself to be. Maybe people mistake her quietness for coldness. Maybe they think she's strong because she rarely shows when she's breaking. Maybe they believe she's serious when, in reality, she's playful, just selective about where she reveals it. Whatever she shares, it is the part of her she usually hides, the part she protects, the part that has shaped her more than she admits. This is where your tone matters more than your words. You don't joke. You don't argue. You don't compare. You let her feel seen. You say something gentle, grounded, real. Something like, I can sense there's more to you than people notice. That validation is a gift. Women rarely forget the man who sees past the mask, who notices the quiet truths she carries beneath her armor. Then comes the 11th question, one that invites intensity. When was the last time you lost control but liked it? This question pulls her into memories where logic loosened its grip and instinct took over. It could be a spontaneous adventure, a night where she danced without caring how she looked, a leap into something she normally wouldn't dare. It might even be something she hesitates to share at first, not because it's inappropriate, but because it's intimate. Not sexual intimacy, emotional intensity. When she describes losing control, she's remembering a moment when she felt alive. And when you listen quietly, with steady presence, she begins to associate that same freedom with you. The mind makes quick connections. If she can feel that intensity again while talking to you, she begins to imagine what it would feel like to let go in your presence. And that subtle, unspoken possibility fuels attraction stronger than any direct attempt ever could. Finally, the 12th question adds a playful depth. If your life was a movie, what would the title be? At first, she might laugh, toss out something humorous or dramatic. But every title holds a piece of truth. How she sees her journey, how she interprets her struggles, what she thinks her life is really about. You listen, let the meaning of her answers settle into the air, and then you add just a touch of intrigue, by saying something like, "Interesting, but I think your title would be different." You don't reveal your version. You let the mystery breathe. And she'll lean in, curious, wondering what you see in her that she hasn't seen in herself. Because at its core, attraction isn't about clarity, it's about curiosity. And you've just given her a reason to wonder. The 13th question invites her into a landscape most people fear to walk through. If you could erase one memory, but relive another forever, which would you choose? This is where the conversation slips into a quiet, almost sacred territory, because to answer it, she has to touch both ends of her emotional spectrum, the ache she still carries and the joy that still warms her. When she thinks of the memory she would erase, it may come from heartbreak, betrayal, a moment she failed herself, or a wound she thought had finally healed. And when she shares it, she is offering you a glimpse into her private scars, the ones she rarely lets anyone see. There is no advice to give, no solution to offer, just space to hold. Then she will shift into the memory she would relive forever, and her entire presence will change. Her voice may brighten, her eyes might soften or glisten, her hands might move as she paints the moment in the air between you. Maybe it's a childhood joy, maybe it's a moment of triumph, or maybe it's a love that once felt boundless. And by listening, fully, quietly, with your entire attention, you become a witness to the two moments that shaped her most. Psychology is simple here. We never forget the person who stands beside our deepest pain and our brightest joy without flinching. You become tied to both extremes of her emotional world, and that bond is not easily unwoven. The 14th question brings a spark back into the air. What's the craziest thing you've ever done? Unlike the earlier questions rooted in nostalgia or reflection, this one pulls her straight into adrenaline. As she speaks, she's not just recounting an event, she's reliving the rush, the uncertainty, the freedom of stepping outside the lines. You'll hear it in her breath, in the way her energy rises. Maybe she snuck out on a spontaneous trip. Maybe she leapt from heights that made her knees shake. Maybe she made a choice that terrified her, but changed her. Let her paint the scene. Let the suspense, the thrill, the reckless impulse fill the space. Then, when she finishes, you wait for just a beat and ask softly, "Would you do it again?" That single question takes her story from the past and gently nudges it into the future. And in that imagined future, she won't just see herself, she'll imagine who might be beside her. Because adrenaline attaches itself to the people who witness it. If she felt the spark while telling you the story, she will subconsciously connect that energy to you. Excitement, once awakened, rarely stays still. And then comes the 15th question, perhaps the most revealing of them all. What is the most important lesson you've ever learned about relationships? This is where truth arrives without makeup or performance. This is where she tells you what broke her, what taught her, what she refuses to repeat, and what she will never settle for again. If she says trust, you know betrayal once left a mark. If she says communication, silence must have cost her something precious. If she says independence, she may have once disappeared inside someone else's life until she lost sight of her own. These lessons aren't opinions. They're the chapters she survived. And when she shares them with you, she is doing more than speaking. She is allowing you into the places where she grew, where she fell apart, where she rebuilt herself piece by piece. You don't rush in with advice. You don't turn it into a debate. You let her feel the weight of her own words, and you take them seriously. Because the man who understands the wounds she carries is the man she instinctively feels safer with. And in a world filled with noise, the one who listens becomes the one who stands out without even trying. And finally, after all these questions, you arrive at the truth beneath everything. That questions are more powerful than compliments, more powerful than lines or strategies. They are the keys to doors most people never open, doors to memory, to vulnerability, to desire, to identity. Most men keep talking, filling the silence with explanations and anecdotes, hoping their words alone will make them interesting. But you're different now. You've stepped into the power of quiet influence, the kind that doesn't beg for attention, but naturally pulls it in. The conversations you create aren't forgettable. They don't evaporate the moment she walks away. They stay with her, echoing long after the night ends, because you didn't just speak, you made her feel. You didn't just impress, you uncovered. You didn't just show up, you saw her. And if you're here, at the end of this journey, it means you're ready to step into a version of yourself most men never become. A man who doesn't dominate the room with volume, but with presence. A man who doesn't chase approval, but connection. A man who doesn't force attraction, but inspires it. So if you've arrived all the way to this moment, let the world know you're awake to this new way of being. Leave the word awakened as your mark. And if this path resonates with you, this quiet strength, this deeper way of connecting, then stay close. There are more insights ahead that most men will never hear, because questions may be the opening move, but you are the checkmate.